My name is Brenya. I use they, them pronouns, and this is Come Together Counseling YouTube channel. Um, in these videos, I'll be discussing healing, relationships, and the mental health field, all through an anarchist lens. So while you might connect with my approach, please remember we don't have a personal or therapeutic relationship. I'm just a person making videos. I hope you find them helpful. This video is going to be about setting boundaries with family members. So talking about what are boundaries, why should you set them with family members, and how do you do that? It's a very timely video, I think, as holidays are coming up, at least in my cultural context, which is in the United States. There are holidays at the end of the calendar year. If you are coming across this video, it's likely you're already thinking, do I want to set boundaries? How do I set boundaries? Maybe you're a little dissatisfied with how interactions with family members have gone in the past. So I want to ask you, why are you thinking about setting boundaries? And is that something you want to do, is to have boundaries? And so I'll leave that question there and ask you again at the end of the video, once I share my thoughts on what that looks like. So first, what is a boundary? A boundary is, to put it simply, a decision you make in advance of how you're going to respond in a given situation. So I'll give you an example. I'm trans, and a boundary I might set is, if you misgender me, I will remind you one time or two or three times, however many times, and if you keep doing it, at that point, I'm gonna make a judgment call that it's not very important to you, and I feel hurt, and so I'm gonna leave. That's my boundary. One or two or however many times I decide, and then I leave. Boundaries are sort of like binary code, in the sense that you can set up like if this happens, then I do this. Sort of like this is a logical consequence of whatever happens. And you could sort of set up different responses for different scenarios, or even different types of boundaries for different people in similar scenarios, based on your knowledge of how they respond and what you want your boundary to be in those different relationships. Boundaries are ultimately for you. They are a decision you make about how you want to be in that relationship. Boundaries are not about telling the other person how to behave, or sort of controlling or manipulating the situation so that other people will respect what you're wanting them to respect. It's, you only have control over yourself. Boundaries are about knowing where you can influence a situation and accepting where other people are at with that context in mind, and then acting. Making decisions about how you want to act in advance, because in that moment, it might be really distressing. It might be really hard to determine, how do I want to act right now? So deciding in advance. Next part is, why set boundaries with family? Again, if you're watching this video, you might already have an idea of why you might want to do that, but here are a few examples. One example is that more so than other relationships, biological family, those are not relationships that we choose. They're relationships we are born into. And so we might not be as close in our values, in our ways of connecting in relationships with some of our biological family, as with, say, our close friends, our partners, people we choose to spend time with on a more day-to-day level. So some of the outcome of that is, they might not be as supportive of some of our decisions. There might be difficulties that come up that don't come up in other relationships, hence the need for boundaries. Another reason is that because family members may have known you for a long period of time, that they may expect you to play this role that you may have played when you were much younger, or that they had in mind for you even before you were born. And these roles may make us uncomfortable. They may not be in alignment with how we want to be in relationships or what our value systems are. It's much more in mind with sort of like, what does the family want us to do? So having boundaries around, maybe I make a compromise in this way, but I'm not going to do this thing, right? Like giving yourself a little bit of that agency and control back without directly confronting what people are expecting of you. And the last sort of reason I have is family may feel entitled to our time, to our energy, to our self expression, to our sense of self, really. And this is, unfortunately just something that can happen, is connected to the role piece I had mentioned, is that, maybe there's an expectation of, for instance, a certain job, or to be married, or for our lives to look a particular way with regards to other things like religion, or the clothes we wear, or the people we spend time with. Ultimately, that's for us to decide. That's our decision about our life, but other people may not appreciate some of our decisions, and we might still want to be in relationships with them, hence the need for boundaries. So, this next piece is about how you can set the boundaries. It's really about you. So, it's really about what boundaries you want to set. So, like, don't let me tell you and don't let anyone else tell you this is the boundary you have to have, right? You can get input from people who maybe know about the situation, but ultimately this is you. This is what you're comfortable with. So how do you set the boundary? Based on how people have treated you in the past, what you've come to expect from them, what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you feel uncomfortable, and what boundary you would feel comfortable setting given that whole context. And what are some of the outcomes of that? So earlier I had mentioned this example of like, if someone is misgendering me as a trans person, maybe I'll remind them a few times. And if that's not sinking in, maybe I'll step out. Maybe for you, that doesn't fit, because if you step out, that's the end of the relationship and you don't really want to do that. So you really need to make that decision yourself. And boundaries are for everyone, right? Like there is going to be something you can do or a way you can respond that is in alignment with what you're more comfortable with, and that is going to be a good fit for your situation. This is why I say, like, don't let me tell you, right? You have to make that decision. You have to think about, I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to do this, it's your decision-making process. It's your role to do this. In terms of the way people respond, that is not on you. In terms of the way people respond to you setting boundaries or you stepping out, whatever that entails, the way people respond to your boundary is information that you can use to determine, how does this relationship feel to me? Do I want to be in this relationship? What can this relationship look like in the future? Right? Because we can't control other people. So the way they respond to us is information we can use about how we want to engage with them or not, right? If there is an expectation of, if you set a boundary, you're going to emotionally caretake for this person who is upset that you set the boundary, I want to encourage you to let someone else support that person when you're setting that boundary. It's sort of undermining the boundary you're setting if you're caretaking the person after you set the boundary with them. That's not your role, right? It's not like there's only two people in the whole world and they need your help because no one else is there, right? Like other people can support them. They can work out something with their own emotional response to you setting a boundary, right? Like when you're setting a boundary, what you're saying is like, in this moment, I need to look after what is going on for me. And it's okay for you to do that. So, in conclusion, let me ask you again. Do you want to set a boundary? We just discussed what a boundary is, why you might want to set a boundary with family members. Do you want to set a boundary with, or multiple boundaries with a family member, multiple family members? And what do you want that to look like? Really, it's up to your judgment, what you're comfortable with and what you want to have boundaries around. In some relationships, you can tell them directly, this is my boundary, and then that's good information for them to have, and they'll really be respectful around that. In some relationships, maybe you just make that decision for yourself. This is what you're going to do, and it's better if you don't tell them directly. And I think that's okay too. So I just want to note some of the things that didn't make it into this video for the sake of brevity, which are if that is going to be a relationship you want to be in, sort of what to determine if that's not a relationship you want to be in, as well as like how do you have an ongoing relationship while keeping in mind these boundaries, sort of like outside of these specific moments where there's a need for a boundary, like how do you navigate when that's ongoing? These are things I was not able to cover today, so if you want me to talk more about that stuff, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for your time, and good luck with the holidays this year. Thanks for watching this video. This screen's a placeholder until I start to accrue more Patreon subscribers, at which point this is where I'll say thank you. Having patrons helps me to continue to make these videos, so if you feel you're getting something from them, consider becoming a patron. And Patreon is linked in the description as well as on my YouTube profile via all my links link. Additionally, if you like this video or share your thoughts in the comments or share this video with other people who might like it, all of these things help to ensure that this video can continue to reach people who might find it helpful. If you live or work in Pennsylvania and would be interested in scheduling a consultation to talk about becoming my therapy client, you can click to my YouTube page and then again click all my links link, and one of those links will be my therapy website, and that's where you can contact me. Say you're coming from YouTube. And if you'd like to contact me about this channel, please use the email that is listed under my About page. Thanks for your continued support. I do deeply appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.